Aiboan. Welcome to Universal Mind Training YouTube channel. Uh, Today we are going to discuss about the Lotus Sutra. Uh, we did another podcast on Lotus Sutra in Sinhala language before. So today we are going to discuss about the same sutra in English. And Anuradha is here today, and he will be explaining what is Lotus Sutra and its significance to a spiritual practitioner. Anuradha, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for accepting me again for this podcast. And I think, as Venera mentioned, we already had our previous podcast in our English, in the Sinhalese version.
Mm-hmm.
It's our local language. And our purpose in this podcast is to, discuss and dive deeper into the same subject, but it will be in English. Yeah. And this information and the things that we are outlining and revealing to other people, it's mainly for the international audience.
Right, right. So, can you explain about the Lotus Sutra? And also, I've seen some references as Saddharma Pundarika Sutra. Like, is it the same thing, or are they those two different things? Can you explain that?
Yeah. So the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra, well, that is in fact a popular sutra among many Western and Eastern spiritual practitioners, especially people who are coming from Buddhist tradition. So the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra is being practiced, propagated among both Theravada and Mahayana traditions. Well, usually people, when they say Saddharma Pundarika Sutra, they usually refer it to or relate it to the small chant, Nammeho Rengekyo.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the most popular version of the chant, and but if you look into the Sanskrit version of the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra, it's a long text, and people actually do not discuss about that. When they say Saddharma Pundarika Sutra, they are usually referring to the small Namiho Rengekyo chant.
Right.
Yeah, but then one could say that Saddharma Pundarika Sutra is the root sutra to many Mahayana treatises. I think Lotus Sutra as well as the Diamond Sutra, they all find certain information or the root information from the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra. So all these sutras at some point in a certain level they are interrelated.
Mm-hmm.
So it is up to us to decide what we want to actually learn from each sutra, and then what we need to, I mean, what is there to grasp or learn from each sutra. But the
Right.
fundamental, the most important thing I would say is that um, similar to many esoteric teachings in, let's say, Christianity and Western spiritual traditions, even in Buddhism, there are similar subjects. For an example, the content or the information in Mahayana Sutras, and therefore the Mahayana, the information and the content in Mahayana Sutras should also be read with the help of a qualified teacher or a enlightened or spiritual master, and also with the help of, let's say, some meditative insights. Then only the content we cover in Mahayana Sutra would make sense.
Right. Some Theravada sutras, those are like not very long as Mahayana sutras. Like when you look at Mahayana sutras, those are like very long, and the text is like, if you look at a PDF, it's like, I don't know, 200 pages. So
Yeah.
like, how can why is this difference there? Like, what could be the reason?
Yeah, because as I mentioned before, the Theravada or the early school teaching of Buddhism, It was expounded for mainly the disciples or the basic practitioners, the practitioners who followed the basic teachings.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and that teaching is essentially based around the suffering and how to be free from suffering and how to eradicate suffering, right? And but when it comes to the Mahayana tradition, it's about essentially about the knowledge or the wisdom of a Buddha,
Mhm.
and that knowledge span across many dimensions, and that knowledge span across um, a wide spectrum. And within that knowledge, we are discussing about, let's say, solution for suffering, the root cause of suffering. We have the basic teaching. In addition to that, we discuss about the chantings we perform. For an example, like protective chantings that could help to repel dark energies. And in addition to that, about the different dimensions, about the 31 planes of existence. So there are many contextual information comes in Mahayana tradition, in Mahayana Sutra chanting. So that's the main difference, and that's why usually the Mahayana sutras are quite long.
Okay. So when you look into the Lotus Sutra, there is it says that all beings can attain Buddhahood. Uh, so how do you explain this?
Yeah, I think that's quite possible. Well, now, when we mention the Buddhahood, we need to also give clarity to that. Because now, according to Theravada Buddhism, we clearly define what we give the definitions to Buddhahood and also the sainthood, Arihanthood. In Mahayana tradition, usually when they say the Buddhahood, it's actually referring to the supreme Buddha, or a person or a practitioner in the capacity of Gautama the Buddha,
Mhm.
right? So perhaps this idea that everyone has the capacity or the seed of Buddhahood might, might sound controversial to the Theravada practitioners, because they like only trying to become disciples. They are
Yeah.
usually disciples who are walking on the same path. But
Mm.
coming back to the question, well, I think everybody has that capacity. Everybody has that seed. And for an example, that's why also the Buddha in Buddhist tradition, specifically in Mahayana tradition and also in Tantrayana tradition, has introduced this path called the Bodhisattva path. And this Bodhisattva path is available for higher order practitioners or for the practitioners who have the highest capacity to understand the teaching, and people who are like having more maturity in samsara. So this path is dedicated for them. And well, um, now even if you look into the meditative states or the meditative considerations we have, for you and me, we both share the same human consciousness. So within our human consciousness, the states, the meditative states and samadhis, or the clear light states, we can attain are same. Even if you take a person from another religious tradition, another religious background, he has the same potential. If he meditates correctly, he would also go through the same meditative or the samadhi state. And that is essentially giving or defining the starting point or the entry point to the path, to the Bodhisattva path, for an example. So, even in that sense, everybody has this capacity, everybody has this potential, and everybody has this seed. Now, the question is, um, whom should we find? I mean, what kind of a guru should we go to get this seed out and blossom and sprout it into, let's say, a tree or a plant?
Yes. Yeah. So, as you explained, that everyone can. I mean, I understand the notion that like everyone can reach these samadhis and these higher conscious planes, but when it comes to the energy, there is a certain physicality that you need to attain the Buddhahood, right?
Well, I think that's an interesting question. It's interesting in a way that we should never demotivate somebody to work on a certain spiritual path,
Hmm.
and that's a kind of like crime.
Right. We
Let's
should
say if
empower everybody to
should
become. Yeah.
yeah, we should empower everybody. Now, I mean, even when it comes to, let's say, this feminine nature, or the women who are
Hmm.
interested in following on, let's say, the Bodhisattva path or the disciple path, or even in other religious traditions, we should never condemn them, or we should never segregate them from other people. Everybody has that potential and also the right.
Hmm.
And in fact, in my opinion, demotivating somebody, putting an obstacle to
Hmm.
somebody to work on a spiritual path and to the enlightenment is a crime. It's a
Hmm.
huge crime. And if, for an example, if you think about, let's say, if you go back to, let's say, 10 or 15 years back in Sri Lanka, we had very conservative culture, and there was a situation or a movement that a person was not allowed to even speak openly about their enlightenment. Yeah, there was a time. Yeah, there was a time like that, and in fact, there was a kind of norm that nobody can attain nirvana, and only people can go into divine realms. So that's what people used to believe.
Yes.
But in my humble opinion, it's totally wrong, and it also goes against this nature or the existence of the universe.
Yeah, also like we were fed with the idea that the nirvana is something is something that's far away, not uh, like not which is not reachable in our in this lifetime. So
What I'm
uh,
saying, what I'm trying to say is this: nobody can impose anybody that they cannot attain nirvana, or nobody can demotivate anybody to walk on the spiritual path, on their spiritual path. It's the crime. It's the you know the most unacceptable crime one can perform, because it's the birthright for a person to know the truth, the ultimate truth. And on top of that, we have human nature. And this human nature comes from the universe. We, for an example, we, just for the sake of simplicity and analysis, we say that human or man is a carbon copy of universe or God. So as long as we have this human nature, we have the potential to become enlightened.
hmm,
Yeah. So that's we have to keep in mind. And the other
that's
thing,
part of the package,
that, of
right?
course, that's of
Hmm.
course part of the package. But then the thing we need to actually understand is this: is there a kind of like bottleneck for women to attain Buddhahood? Because there is a belief like that.
Right.
Hmm. Especially in the Sri Lankan community, there's like a kind of like belief like that. Women can never attain supreme Buddhahood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's your take on that?
yeah. You may have also heard it from
Yeah. Yeah.
many
Of course, I've heard that.
people. Yeah, it's a bit illogical statement, because the Buddhahood or the supreme enlightenment is a part of it's the nature of our human mind. So the human mind is commonly available for everybody. It is beyond genders. And at the enlightenment, we are transcending our dualistic nature, or even the gender, even the qualities of gender, even the polarities. So then, how can it be impossible for women? That is the question. Well, I think there's a little bit of like slight chance or slight truth in that, and I believe it is mainly because of certain um,
Biological
not actually biological.
energy. Uh,
It's in their energy system
mhm.
and also in their physical body. So we know that biologically, women have this problem of like the cyclic nature. I mean, monthly they have this like the psychological changes and also the biological changes happening in their body. Sometimes it can be a hindrance. Well, I cannot say it for sure because I'm not a woman, but at least it can be a problem for their psychological balance. Right? It can be a problem. However, I can know one thing for certain, which is the problem of the energy system. If you look at the typical feminine nature, the lower chakras in their body, they are heavily attached to the materialistic world. They are
Right.
heavily identified with the materialistic world. So that the final enlightenment process cannot easily happen for a woman. So when I say the final enlightenment, it is not the arihanthood, it is going beyond this physical body, or the divine incarnation process, so to speak. For that, I think a woman might find difficulties,
Mhm.
and that's why a woman usually we say that for the full enlightenment or the complete enlightenment process, woman might need help from a supreme enlightened guru. Yeah. Even if you like take the other cultures, like for an example, Hindu and yogic traditions, we say that the nature of Shiva, or the nature of masculine, is that it doesn't have, it is not too attached to the physicality.
Right.
Yeah, so the nature of masculine is that it's not dynamic. It's like more of kind of passive state. But the nature of woman is dynamic.
Mm.
The feminine nature is dynamic and it can change time to time in fast cycles.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that it's something inferior, but it's something different, like more attached to the worldly affairs. I think in Hinduism, they call it Devi nature, or
Devi
uh,
nature.
yeah. So it is something supreme as well, uh,
Yeah.
and more like governing. Actually, I think Dev nature is what governing the worldly nature mainly, right?
Yeah, that's why we say, I mean, when we try to describe this existential nature, we say always Mother Nature
Hmm.
to the changing nature of the universe. And the one who has understood this truth is usually we refer to as um, the enlightened father or the Buddha father, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, in my language, we say Buddhupiyanam.
Hmm.
So to us, the completely fully enlightened or the completely enlightened master is like a father. Or even like when we discuss or when we think about, when we, refer to the Abrahamic traditions, God is a fatherly figure to us.
Hmm.
Okay, but the existential nature or the ever-changing nature is more like a feminine figure to us.
Right.
It's a motherly figure,
Hmm.
but nothing is inferior to the other. What we need to understand is this: feminine nature is essentially the dynamic nature of this universe.
Hmm.
So the creation is only possible due to this feminine nature. And it is, well, sort of passive, uh, passive in the sense it doesn't move.
Hmm. It's relatively static compared to the feminine
Ex-
nature, right?
Exactly, that would be the, I think, most appropriate explanation to that. It's more
Hmm.
static compared to the dynamic feminine nature.
Hmm.
And without one, the other cannot exist, so that there's an interdependent nature between the two.
Hmm.
Mm, so, like, but then how is it? Now, we need to also come back to our original topic, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Hmm.
So I'll move to the next section, which is the concept of Eka Yana.
Hmm.
Uh, so can you explain what does that mean, Eka Yana? Like, I've heard Mahayana and Hinayana, these things, but what is Eka Yana?
Yeah, interesting point you have brought up to the table. So I think if you look at many Mahayana sutras, many Buddhist sutras, specifically coming from Mahayana tradition, they speak about, often mention the superiority of Mahayana concept.
Hmm.
They often stress why the Mahayana belief or the Mahayana practice is superior to other lower yanas.
Hmm.
But the only sutra, only Mahayana sutra, or the only Mahayana treaty that we find speaking about a single yana or Eka Yana is the Lotus Sutra,
Hmm.
and that's one speciality we find in the Lotus Sutra. And so, how is that possible? So, there's a distinction between Theravada, Mahayana, and Tantrani in other sutras, and this one says all sutras, oh sorry, all yanas and all teachings finally boil down to a single yana.
Hmm.
So, how is that possible, and how do we understand that? So, that is the next question. Well, I think now, as I told you before that, also we have discussed in many occasions in our blog that there are different yanas or different trajectories for different capacities. Person who has more bodhisattva qualities, well, they can walk on, they can embrace or walk upon the bodhisattva path. People who have only like disciple qualities, like plus maturity and less capacity, they can become a disciple. But be it any of these path, still the mind purification or the mind training practice that you have to undertake, they're same.
Hmm.
So that's what is meant by the Eka Yana. So the Mahayana practitioners or the Bodhisattvas, they have to undergo the same mind training. They have to train themselves to be free from, let's say, suffering, five aggregates, and they have to be free from defilements, mental fetters, etc., etc. The same thing happens in Theravada or the Shravakaya.
Hmm.
Even for like a Pacheka Buddha or the solitary realizer, mind training is the same.
Hmm.
So the mind training, being free from defilements, mental fetters, and being free from five aggregates, this part is common across all the yanas, all the vehicles.
Right.
And therefore, the Lotus Sutra says that all yanas are finally coming
Merging
down.
now, like unison of the all yanas.
All yanas are finally merging or converging to single yana or ekayana.
Hmm.
So that is the essential meaning.
Right. Right. And our next question, or the part from the sutra, is about skillful means.
Hmm.
Uh, so, what does it mean by skillful means in this context?
Yeah. So, like now, now if you look at the Theravada Buddhism and in Theravada Tripitaka, we find very few instances about skillful means. So, the skillful means essentially means um, we are trying to be skillful to, like, come into our spiritual practice. Or sometimes we can also be, we need, sometimes we need to be skillful in teaching others, bringing other people into the spirituality and enlightenment. In Theravada practice, I think there are several encounters like that. So, for an example, we speak about this Chulapantaka Thera, a monk
Hmm.
named by the Chulapantaka. So, it was quite difficult for others to explain him how to purify the mind.
Hmm.
And then I think his brother or maybe another higher order disciple, well, he, I think, asked him to, like, bring a white cloth so that by rubbing on the white cloth, I think they displayed and demonstrated him that this cloth can easily get contaminated, and then the white color will turn into dark or black color. So
Hmm.
likewise, um, the mind can also get contaminated if we do not purify it regularly.
Right.
So this is a nice analogy, and on top of that, this is a nice way and also skillful way of teaching how the mind can be purified. Okay, that's one example we find in Theravada Buddhism. But the skillful means is, it's a quite important aspect in Mahayana Buddhism for a couple of reasons. In Theravada Buddhism, the Theravada disciple, he doesn't pay much attention to awaken others. That's not his task. He doesn't really care about, well, what other, the ending or the ultimate goal of other people, and uh, what would happen to other people, and then Theravada disciple doesn't give much emphasis on that. But if you look at the Mahayana disciple or the Mahayana practitioners, they have certain paramitas to fulfill. They have to fulfill certain paramitas, and therefore, the Mahayana practitioners have their special, I mean, their own effort or their own uh, dedication to awaken others. So that is the nature of Mahayana practitioners. And Mahayana practitioners are what we refer to as the Bodhisattvas. And the Bodhisattvas, therefore, dedicate their entire life for the benefit of others, to awaken others. Now, how can we awaken others if we don't have many different skills?
Hmm.
How can the Bodhisattvas awaken others if they cannot appear in different forms to different people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, for an example, people used to people used to say that it's boring to hear or listen to the sermons of Theravada practitioners, because
Hmm.
it's about the same thing. It's the same repeating cycles of about the suffering. It's
Hmm.
the same boring story. But if you look at all the Mahayana practitioners who appeared throughout the history, they are people of having a deep intellectual capacity. They were people of great wisdom,
Hmm.
and they were great debaters. So to give you one example, I think in my YouTube videos I have discussed about such individuals. So we have this Bodhisattva Nagarjuna. He was a philosopher,
Hmm.
and he was really good at putting forth, representing, and demonstrating Gautama Buddha's teachings in intellectual way,
Right.
in deeply intellectual manner. And Because of him, many people, many practitioners from all the schools of Buddhism at that time attracted to the Nalanda University. See, one person, what a single person can do. Even
Right.
today, even today after Nagarjuna's passing, we still discuss about Nagarjuna. We still embrace his teachings.
I think his some of his works are in written form, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now,
Mm.
if you look into most of the Western Buddhist institutes, universities, and Western Buddhist practitioners, they are highly speaking of the Nagarjuna's work.
Mm.
At least because of the Nagarjuna's effort, people were coming in to practice Buddhism, practice meditation. But I think during his time, he was not accepted by many people. I think
Yeah,
many people, yeah, I think many people were calling him a mad guy because his philosophical depth was not understood by many.
yeah, that has happened throughout the history, right?
Yeah, I think it was the case for all the enlightened masters,
Yeah,
um,
even for the philosophers.
even for the philosophers. Yes,
Mm.
if you look at the philosophers and people of having the same capacity and depth from both east and west, well, they have the same problem, right?
Yeah.
They were not accepted by the society.
Mm.
Now that was about Nagarjuna. Let's talk about another yogi, Tilopa from Tantrayana tradition. Well, he was really good at teaching tantric and giving tantric teachings, tantric instructions.
Mm.
And even this the master or the yogi called Sarhapa.
Mhm.
So they were really good at delivering and giving esoteric teachings.
Right. What do you mean by tantric
Yeah, so the
teachings?
tantric and esoteric teachings cannot be given directly, right? They have a sort of secrecy.
Mm.
It cannot be presented verbally, like I mean, it cannot be presented in more intellectual capacity.
Right. Like you can't just expose it to like general
No, yeah,
audience. It has to
it
be like one to one or something like that. Right?
exactly. It cannot be presented to the general public, but on top of that, we cannot also verbally give these instructions. So it has
Mm.
to be given in more of like a poetic way, and sometimes these yogis used to perform magic.
Mhm.
They used to perform some you know elusive work
Mm.
combined with magic, so
Mm.
that they were able to convince many different capacities, many different people.
Yeah, we call it Pelahara Pano in Sinhala, right?
Yeah, you could also say like that, yes. But this was mainly about some tantric yogic magic.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm. Tricks.
you could say it's tricks, but eventually these tricks actually led many people into enlightenment.
Mm. It's for a greater good of people, not for just showing off.
Of course, for a greater good and to awaken people. Now, Nagarjuna's philosophical depth and Tilopa's magical influence or illusions.
Mm.
And what else? And haiku. Yeah, so when it comes to the Zen Buddhism, all these traditional Zen masters, at least, uh, the Zen masters from, let's say, 14th century, so they used to have these haiku
Mm.
poems.
So sort of poetry, right?
Yeah, it was poetry.
Mm.
So that was their way of presenting the teaching, and I am also in favor of that kind of teaching,
Mm.
delivering the enlightened qualities, delivering the true nature or the human, the enlightened nature of mind in more poetic way.
Right.
So now, even in this, if you take these three examples, we have three different forms. Don't you think this is the skillful means?
Yeah, definitely. And if
Yeah.
you take haiku, it itself has it's a skill, right? Like it has several number of syllables for each line, and if you want to
Yeah.
deliver the message in those three lines, in those number of syllables, it's a sort of very intellectual task, and it's very interesting as well.
Hmm. But as I told you, during their own time, they were not accepted by the society. Okay. But later on, after many centuries, now we are learning about their teachings. We're learning
Right.
about their the qualities. We're learning about their practices.
Mhm.
So I think that's the best example I can give for the
The
skillful means.
yeah, skillful means, right? Understood. And then we'll move on to our next segment. It's about the eternal nature of the Buddha.
Hmm.
So, how do you explain this?
Okay. Well, we could say the eternal nature, inconceivable nature, or incomprehensible nature of an enlightened master, right? Because now, if we sit in front of a guru or a human master, we see different facets, we see different qualities in him, right? So, for an example, I sit before a guru and then I see his physical body. And sometimes that master might also have certain personal qualities, like he easily gets angry with me.
Hmm,
He tries to, like, blame me every time, sometimes for no reason, because he wants to, like, destroy my ego.
hmm,
So these are the personal qualities. So even Buddha has these personal qualities, and apart from the enlightened qualities, and sometimes the energetical qualities. Now, the question is, um, well, as a human being sitting before a Buddha, I notice these mainly human qualities because I'm not advanced meditation practitioner, I'm not an advanced yogi, right?
hmm,
Well, now, if you are a bit advanced and if you have, let's say, awakened your third eye chakra and many other spiritual qualities, perhaps you would even notice his energy field,
hmm,
right? Even you would perhaps notice his aura, certain auric fields, certain levels of his aura.
hmm. We call it Buddha field, right?
Well, I think we won't be able to see Buddha field because we are
Hmm,
like very basic human beings.
hmm,
Uh, I mean, our spirituality is not so advanced, but
hmm,
certain level of his energetical field can be observed.
hmm,
Perhaps the aura, the light around his body can be observed. And that's one level above the human qualities.
hmm. Right.
But then you ask the question about the eternal qualities,
Yeah, eternal nature. Yes.
eternal nature. Well, we are not in a position to actually say anything about the eternal nature of an enlightened guru, right? But what we can do is we can simply obey or follow his instructions with utmost respect. But to give you a direct answer, the eternal quality is essentially his supreme enlightened qualities that usually he often get from the universe, from the connection between himself and the universe. So
Okay.
there's a direct connection between this great universe and the meditation, the spiritual guru.
Hmm,
And this connection is what we usually refer to as the eternal connection. So Buddha also has this connection with, let's say, a very high energy planes with the universe, so that through these high energy planes, Buddha will get the instructions or let's say certain sayings naturally
Mhm.
or spontaneously, right?
Right. So how do you distinguish this eternal nature with the immortality, which is
Okay.
often talked in Hinduism and these
Okay.
traditions?
Yeah, I think there's one more thing I need to mention. So, in typical, the traditional Theravada Buddhism, we say everything is impermanent,
Hmm.
nothing is eternal. So, the word eternal can sometimes go against the typical or the traditional Buddhist teaching.
Right.
Right? That's why usually Buddhists are not in favor of these type of words, eternal,
Hmm.
being. But that is mainly because they don't have a deeper understanding of how the energies are working in this universe. If you know about the energy planes and the very energy that is governing the physical body of Buddha, that energy is you can say it eternal. That energy is not changing. That energy, or we say that we say it is the incarnated energy in spiritual jargon. This incarnated energy is residing in somewhere else in a higher plane of existence, and this incarnating energy can be sometimes seen as an eternal um, energy of eternal nature. And that's why in Mahayana Buddhism sometimes we find this term eternal nature in many occasions.
Right.
So the people who are coming from Theravada Buddhism, they are not aware of that and they don't know about this. And because of that reason, they say that the Mahayana Buddhism is a later developed Buddhism and it was developed by, let's say, people who are coming from Hinduism.
Hmm.
So remember, there is an eternal nature to Buddhist teaching as well. But unfortunately, many people don't know about it.
Right. I think we also discussed this before that these three yanas they describe different qualities of
Exactly.
Buddha.
Hmm. And on top of that, the basic practitioners or the disciples who are coming from the Theravada tradition, well, they don't need to know everything, right?
Right.
I mean, being spiritual practitioners, we don't need to know the entire spectrum.
Hmm.
There are things that we should know, and there are things that best remain hidden.
Hmm.
But then the question comes for a deep investigators, specifically people who learn about both Theravada and Mahayana teachings, that okay, the Mahayana teaching says about this eternal nature or living until the eternity, and sometimes even about the immortality, which we do not find in any of the Theravada contexts. So then we often find discrepancy.
Hmm.
But then, well, if for a person who actually practiced in, let's say, a genuine spiritual lineage, he might not have this confusion.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Understood. And then our next topic or our next segment is about
Wait,
the,
wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah. So another controversial statement we can make based on that conclusion is Mahayana Buddhism. Can it be similar to Abrahamic faiths? Yes. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Our next part is also a follow up of this part, which is about non-abiding nirvana.
Hmm.
Uh, so how can we distinguish these two things, nirvana versus non-abiding nirvana?
Yeah, okay. Now, the non abiding nirvana. Now, if we take the name of that, as the name implies, uh, non abiding nirvana means we are not abiding in a nirvana. And we don't find non abiding nirvana in Theravada Buddhism. Why? Because Theravada Buddhism heavily emphasizes its teaching on renunciation. which essentially means we renounce all the materialistic life and materialistic wealth, and then we stay in temple, we stay in remorse without having contact with anybody. So that's about the Theravada and the Hinayana teaching.
Mhm.
And this is against Gautam Buddha's teaching. Well, I mean, the certain part of that teaching is in line with Buddha's teaching, but if you look at the entire spectrum of Buddha's teaching, the Bodhisattva trajectory is against this. Now, if you are a Bodhisattva, you have to benefit others. Can you benefit others just by staying in remorse? Can you benefit other people by staying in a temple? No, it doesn't make any sense. So for bodhisattvas, their task is different. So the bodhisattvas will go on, in different places. Like they can be perhaps found in um, the heavily crowded markets. They can be found in domestic environments. They can be found in mountain tops, rural areas, and even you can find them in among posh people.
But
You
they went back to the society, right? Even Buddha himself went back to the society. He was not.
they Exactly, they went back to the society. And if you recall this, the 10 images or the 10 stages of Zen Buddhism awakening, at the ninth stage, we see that the monk is becoming enlightened. And then in the 10th one, the last one, after his enlightenment, he goes into the public. He's among everybody.
Hmm.
And then he is giving his teaching, he is sharing his teachings for different capacities. So the Bodhisattva's way is different. And mainly because of this specific training, the specific goal, the Bodhisattvas can appear in different forms. They are not sticking and being isolated in nirvana, concept of nirvana. They simply like walk around and deal with many different people because their task is to bring this message of truth to everybody. That is one definition to non-abiding nirvana. So after the enlightenment, the Bodhisattva doesn't reside in nirvana. He doesn't stay with nirvana. He went looking for other people who have the same capacity and interest, and then bring enlightenment or the ultimate truth to them, or at least transmit meditative samadhis, or try to raise their energies. Right?
Right.
Okay, that's one definition. The other definition is that um, if the other definition is the highest definition, well, to understand that, I think we need to also learn about the yogic aspects. Specifically, this definition is relevant to the Tantrayana tradition.
Hmm.
Now, primary goal of Buddhist practitioner is to attain nirvana so that they will try to cut their rebirth. The rebirth won't happen again. Okay,
Right. Like a cessation of existence.
cessation of existence,
Hmm.
cessation of rebirth.
Hmm.
But then, in this specific definition, according to this specific definition, a bodhisattva will transcend their physical body so that they can come to an immortal form of existence.
Hmm.
That's also possible. And that, in fact, being practiced by many tantric yogis. So, for an example, what we see as, let's say, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Manjusri Bodhisattva, and other certain bodhisattvas, other energetical forms of these bodhisattvas are sort of eternal forms,
Hmm.
immortal forms. But the whole point is what? The whole point is they survive in this existence not for entertainment business, but to
Hmm.
help others.
Right. They remain in the cycle of existence in out of compassion towards the beings, all
They,
beings, right?
yeah, that they remain in this existence to help
Hmm.
others. So that's the definition,
Hmm.
and that is out of their highest compassion towards every being.
Hmm.
So that's the second definition of an undivided nirvana. But in both, according to the both definitions, it is the highest purpose of bodhisattva to stay, remain in samsara to help others. They
Right.
can give a better help to others. Yeah.
Hmm. Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, the most people say that Buddha was also like that. Now we
Yeah, I've
think,
heard in some places, but I don't know. In Theravada Buddhism, we don't like really ready to believe this.
yeah. So the Buddha, I think, was not actually like that. In fact, he came into the public and he was like sharing his wisdom and sermons with everybody. So that's one, like, my personal opinion. I can be wrong, but those are the two definitions for non-abiding nirvana.
Right. So our next question is on about the sutra itself. In Mahayana sutras, they often mention about bhakti or the devotion towards the sutra.
Mhm.
Uh, like what is your explanation on this? Like what does it give to a offer to a practitioner, the devotion towards the sutra?
Yeah, I think one could also argue that the Mahayanas take this notion from Hindu tradition, right? Because this bhakti, the
Yeah.
word comes from the bhakti yoga. Well,
Yes.
people can argue in many different ways and have many different opinions, and we don't care. But then, when it comes to the typical Theravada Buddhism, we say that it is not the bhakti that we should have, but it is the shraddha, right?
Right. Shraddha.
But man, I mean, when it comes to this, these are just two different words. But the underlying message is we need to have devotion.
Hmm.
Let's say now you're practicing meditation or you get some instruction from a Buddhist monk from
Hmm.
Theravada tradition. Still, you need to have devotion. And without devotion, we cannot progress.
Yes.
And let's say you meet a highly qualified or fully enlightened master. Without devotion, we cannot get anything from that person. Even to the universe, I think we need to have devotion. Without devotion we cannot progress in any direction. So I think bhakti essentially means devotion.
Hmm. Right. So we'll move to our next question, which is about divinely incarnated masters.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
so how do you explain this term?
I don't know how did you come up with that word. Did I you took it from one of my writings, or you just
Actually,
from
we discussed about this in our single podcast as well.
okay. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah, I think I'm in the best position to explain about this term because during my spiritual evolution, despite certain ups and downs, I went looking for many different masters in my life, and then many such masters were actually influential for me to understand certain concepts and also understand about the energy system, human energy system. So I believe. Um, Being in close proximity to such a divinely incarnated master is highly beneficial
hmm,
because now there are many different masters of different capacities, right? There could be a master who only has, let's say, this um, basic meditative experiences like basic samadhis, but then the help that they can give to other people is limited. But the master of a capacity of divine incarnated master has, I think, the best possibility to help somebody. I have met, I think, one such master. For an example, Master Naropa from Netherlands, well, he was really helpful for me in certain situations and also in certain instances, occasions. Um, like his instructions and his words were really kind to me. And at the same time, by meditating with me, I also learned many different things about, um, the energy system, human energy system, so that they can be really helpful. And I think only divinely incarnated masters have this direct connection to this universe. This is my opinion.
All right. Okay. And then I want to ask about the trajectories, uh, like the spiritual trajectories. In there are also different spiritual lineages or spiritual lines.
Yeah.
And how do you explain these things? Like,
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good question because I started writing blog post about these different spiritual trajectories so that they can be helpful for people to walk on without having any fear, without having any doubt. But to answer your question within a very short time, I think it's going to be difficult. But this is based on my own meditative experience, so that other people can decide whether to take it seriously or not. Well, now, until we come to a certain, um, let's say, certain spiritual awakening stage. Now, let's say it can be awakening of certain chakras in your body. It can be illuminating of certain samadhi state to your mind. Until we come to that point, the path is the path is unique to everybody. So let's say you're
unique in
coming.
the sense it's different or it's the same.
No, it's the same. I mean, they are like similar. Let's say
Hmm.
you're coming from Hindu background and you have this the spiritual trajectory up to that point. Let's say up to the Anya chakra or the sixth chakra or the third eye chakra. That trajectory is same to a Buddhist who are awakening to the same level, and also it will be same for a Christian.
Hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which background you come from. The trajectory or the pathway up to the sixth center or the third eye chakra is same. It has to be same. But after you come to the third eye chakra, then the certain meditative states or samadhis you will encounter or experience, they will have different shapes and unique qualities. And these unique qualities highly depend on the geographical location you are in. So, if you are doing meditation in Europe, you would perhaps encounter many different spiritual, let's say, symbols, signposts relevant to that European region. And if you do the meditation in East, let's say a country like India or Sri Lanka, you would experience similar symbols and signposts, but essentially they have the shape of, let's say, gods and divine figures, similar to our cultural values. Okay,
Yes. Okay.
and then yeah, and then from this the awakening of sixth chakra, you now have different capacities and different teachings. Well, sometimes we could call it the different curriculums, having different curriculums. And the next question is, where does this curriculum come from? Well, it comes from the universe, it comes from the mother nature, can give many different names, but different people and different cultural backgrounds need different curriculums, because we cannot really forcefully enforce or we impose certain curriculum on a person if he is not ready to work on that path, if he is not suitable for that trajectory, right?
Right.
That's why, if you look at, so for an example, most of the advanced souls, star seeds from West, They have different kind of totally different curriculum, different to the paths that we follow from East. So in the Eastern path, we have this, the Shakti of Shiva, and we talk about the concept of Shiva and different embodiment of Shiva and its manifestation levels. And then when it comes to Buddhist tradition, we speak about different samadhis, formless and form absorptions, and different manifestations of God's mind, um, mind levels, and then what else? The cause and effect principle, these kind of things. But this information is not available in the Western curriculum. So they have their own way of evolving through their path. And due to these different curriculums, these star seeds will get different trajectories. But finally, all these trajectories will find its end or the termination at God, or the prime creator, or the universe.
Right. So I would like to know about the spiritual lineage that uh, one inherits from his or her birth. Is there any reason behind that particularly, like you are born to a particular religion or particular spiritual lineage?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and different people can have different opinions about it. This is my opinion. Now, we both were born in Sri Lanka, so we grew up in Buddhist culture, and well, we had the the basic exposure to our spiritual tradition, and we used to do meditation with gurus, the masters who are coming from the same background. And on top of that, the fundamentals related to the spirituality and the mind training, they essentially came from the Buddhist tradition. So for us, I think that's how our mind actually was trained. And then later on, due to with the awakening, the initial awakening of our energy centers, or maybe with some meditative insights and epiphanies, then we may be traveling into different locations in the world. Now we are in the European region, and so in spirituality, in the universal hierarchy, we discuss about different energy planes, different planes of the existence. So, what is sensed from us, what is felt from us to these higher dimensions, is our energy field, and our energy field cannot lie to anybody. We may lie to somebody verbally, but our energies cannot lie.
Hmm.
And these energies will be seen to the higher dimensions, and all downloads, spiritual downloads, so to speak, they come through these energy fields, and therefore, regardless of our background, still we will come to a certain enlightening experience, certain illumination wherever we go. But we have to be genuine in our practice. So, for an example, if I'm to share my meditative experiences, you can also read about them in my blog. Um, so, with the awakening of third eye chakra, you can, start to notice or witness certain divine beings. Um, if you are in European region, very similar to these angelic figures that we usually discuss in Abrahamic traditions. And if you are coming from, let's say, uh, the East Asian or Asian
Hmm.
side, and if you do meditation over there, then you would see figures, or like visions very similar to the divine beings we usually discuss there.
Hmm.
Likewise, our consciousness, human consciousness, has a relative link to all the experiences we see, or the experiences we go through. So coming back to the point, Well, in my opinion, the location we live, it actually doesn't matter
Hmm.
because we are connected to all the dimensions of this existence through our energy field. Yeah.
All right. So,
Mm.
why does these people of West they usually go to India or these Nepal or these locations to looking for spirituality?
Mm.
So, why does this happen? Because they want to get some benefit from the location, or they are looking for gurus
Yeah.
there.
Where at least they have that opportunity, right? I mean, people
Yeah,
from our part of the world, we even don't have that luxury,
that's it.
or the money, or the
The
finances to.
privilege. It's a privilege that you are able to travel from abroad.
Yeah, we are not privileged to do that.
Yeah.
At least in that sense, they are really lucky. So the people who are in the European region or the Western countries, they can explore many different things. And if they want to excel in, let's say, many different dimensions, they can go to meet, practice with gurus. Well, I think that's a good sign. But as I mentioned, if we have awakened chakras, certainly we will be exposed and we will be seen to the higher dimensions, regardless of our background and regardless of the country we live. That is my experience.
Hmm.
In one of my blog articles, I mentioned about this training ground or the training system called the hyperdimensional matrix. I think
Mm-hmm.
most of you guys are familiar with this movie called the
Yeah.
Matrix trilogy, and well, I think it also unfolds a story about such training system. Well, we don't have anything literally similar to that in this training system, but what I'm trying to say is these higher planes of existence, the divine beings, they are ready to help genuine truth seekers. They are ready to help ambitious star seeds if they are willing to progress and if they are willing to evolve.
Hmm.
I think that availability is everywhere. This is available everywhere. I think, especially also in US, with the new emerging of these, um, how do you call? Um,
The new age spiritual
These new
movement.
age, exactly,
Uh,
these new age spiritual movements, and
mm,
also with the institutes such as Galactic Federation, I think the star seeds have a direct support from them if they want to evolve. But at the same time, this training system, the training ground also performs certain experiments. But then to become a part of this, the large group, we also like need to be genuine and we have to, um, commit ourselves for a mass awakening. So coming back to the point, wherever you live, I think this support comes. Well, I was living in Netherlands and my home country is Sri Lanka, so I was far away from my Buddhist background, but still, um, there was a huge support from, I think, this the universe or the several hyper at the higher dimensions of existence for my evolution.
right. Right. So, our next question is about the Bodhisattvas.
Hmm.
Uh, in I think in even in Lotus Sutra and even in Mahayana Buddhist tradition in general, they speak about different Bodhisattvas.
Yeah.
Can you explain about name a few and explain their roles?
Yeah. So first, let's try to draw a distinction between the Bodhisattvas and other practitioners. So when it comes to the Buddhist tradition, we have the Shravakas and then we have the Bodhisattvas.
Yes.
So the Shravakas, they are the hearers, the practitioners who usually listen to the Guru,
Mhm.
in our case Buddha, and then the Bodhisattvas, they can also listen and they can also adhere to practice and can become disciples of the fully enlightened master. But still, Bodhisattvas have their own trajectory that they walk with the help of their intuition. So that this trajectory is unique to him. And the Bodhisattva um, are ready to help. Bodhisattvas are available to help others without any expectation. So they can help in many different forms. They can manifest in many different forms to different capacities of people.
Mhm.
And the most important, I think, aspect that we see in bodhisattvas is their exalted wisdom and compassion. We don't see that in other type of practitioners.
Mhm.
And bodhisattvas actually do not want to identify themselves with these qualities, but then they freely appear through this samsara to help others.
Mhm.
Now, the bodhisattvas do not only exist in Buddhist tradition. If you look into the other Abrahamic traditions,
Mhm.
uh, Jesus himself, I consider him as a great bodhisattva. And
Mhm.
then we have also the esoteric Christian and Abrahamic traditions. Then we have heard of these Christian saints, and also this recently we had this enlightened Master Samael Aunvyo. So these were the great enlightened masters or bodhisattvas from these traditions.
Mhm.
So bodhisattvas exist everywhere, and they have their unique path. And with the help of this unique path, they are trying to help others and try to bring other people into awakening. So that's,
Right.
I think, the unique difference between the bodhisattvas and other practitioners I see.
Mhm. Right. So, yeah, I think we have come to the end of our podcast. And there's one more question. It's about uh, how that one can use the sutra in his or her day-to-day practice by chanting. Or what benefits that we can get by chanting the sutra or by contemplating the sutra.
Yeah, I mean, well, in my opinion, um, um, there's twofold use of these chants or of the sutras.
Mhm.
So one such use is for the protective purposes to gain protection. Now we know that the Lotus Sutra, the small form of the Lotus Sutra, is this Namyoho Renge chant,
Mhm.
and there is nothing substantial actually to gain from this chant.
Mhm.
But if you are really keen meditator and if you have developed your energy centers, you can combine this chanting of this sutra with your energy field, so
Mhm.
that this energy field can be shaped into like different forms.
Right.
Perhaps this is a new information. Yeah, I would like to share with everybody. Now we have this very unique chant called Mahakala.
Right.
So the
Kala
Mahakala
is also a bodhisattva, if I'm not mistaken, right?
exactly. So the
Mm.
Mahakala chant is ascribed and dedicated for the Bodhisattva Mahakala.
Mhm.
The Mahakala Bodhisattva is uniquely different to other Bodhisattvas. Why? Because he has a wrathful form.
Mm.
So the Mahakala Bodhisattva appears in wrathful manner to like protect um, the Buddhist practitioners or any kind of spiritual practitioner from the threats and also from the attacks from higher dimensions. Likewise,
Mm.
and let's say if you have these awakened energy centers in your body, starting from the crown to the heart center, then you can easily attune yourself to the energy of Mahakala.
Mm.
I have done it myself, and I remember that during the best time of my spiritual evolution, I had this the golden hour emitting from all the higher chakras, and then when I chanted the Mahakala Sutra, and this aura took a very specific, unique shape. It has turned into the shape of Mahakala. I don't know whether you believe it or not.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the aura, the normal aura looks like, a normal halo, right?
Mm.
It has a shimmering gold color, and it's simply like emitting from this physical body. But then, with the chanting of Mahakala, it can turn into a different shape. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, interesting. So when this aura turns into the Mahakala shape, this Mahakala shape, now newly created Mahakala shape, can act as a protective mechanism, act as a protection against some dark energies, some
Hmm.
dark entities or lower astral beings.
Right. So
So
in that
that's
sense, we can also use the Lotus Sutra as well, right? Against
not
the.
so
Hmm.
even Namhyo Rengekyo Sutra, but then they don't have any wrathful forms.
Mhm.
Now, for an example, if you go ahead with the Mahayana Sutra for Vajrapani,
Hmm.
no, not Vajrapani. There's a Bodhisattva who is primordial, who is like the who is leading, who is dedicated for the purity of our mind, and that Bodhisattva, there's a dedicated chant for that Bodhisattva, and if you do the chant at the same time of contemplating on this Bodhisattva, then you can develop a compassionate form around you.
Mhm.
That's one way we use the Mahayana Sutras.
It's like absorbing the energy of the that particular bodhisattva, right?
Embodying the,
Embodying. Yeah.
the particular energy of the bodhisattva. Yes.
Mm.
So sometimes these wrathful forms are important and helpful to repel all these dark entities or the dark beings. And sometimes these compassionate forms, including Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, they are helpful to, like being compassionate towards miserable beings,
Mm.
or even for ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, so that's one use of these, the Mahayana Sutras. The other use is, it's straightforward. It is knowing or contemplating on the underlying message.
Right.
It's about the impermanence, it's about the suffering, and Eightfold Noble Path, and compassion and wisdom.
Mm.
Yeah. So these are the two main uses of the Mahayana Sutras. I think we have discussed about this also in one of our previous podcasts.
Yes. Yes. All right. So we have come to an end of this podcast, and it was very interesting and insightful to have known about this the sutra and also the surrounding context around the sutra.
Exactly.
And thank you very much, Anuradha, for your contribution in this podcast.
Yeah,
And
and then we will wish success and also enlightenment, and we will hope that everybody will come to enlightenment sooner than um, the people who present these ideas.
yes,
Yeah, so the whole purpose of sharing this knowledge is to bring other people into awakening or enlightenment sooner.
right, right. With that purpose, I wish you all a blissful week ahead, and see you next time.
Yeah, till next time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.